Wah, wah, wah.
Oh, thank goodness for Jeremy Goldie. People were sitting there watching.
Goldilocks is here.
They're like, "What is going on?" So, so yeah. So
Whoops.
for those of you watching, those of you listening, it's recording on a different thing, so you heard everything. For the people watching, they have not heard a word we've said yet. So we're gonna, quickly glance over what we mentioned. But yeah, fantasy playoffs are here. We are excited. Ultra Tight 69 over on Twitch. Welcome to the stream, Goldie. Thanks again. We would have went forever until somebody said something. So, you know,
Yep.
4 minutes is better than 1,000. Jeremy says, "Good job, kids." Jeremy's a good buddy of mine. See, he showed up for my birthday dinner, Brad. He
Yeah, I bet
didn't
he
ditch
did.
me like you did. Um,
True story.
yeah, yeah. See, he's a good friend. You, not so much. Um,
Pretty horrible person.
Ultra Tight 69. We do not talk about basketball at this time, but it is something that we are going to be adding in the future. Once we expand the team a little bit and can take on that workload. But right now, we do not talk basketball.
Except in our Discord chats.
You can join our Discord. We do have basketball chat in our Discord. All you got to do is go to rotoheat.com/discord, and that'll get you right over into our Discord server, and we can talk some basketball in there. Our buddy Kevin Kloss is a big fantasy basketball player, and he's definitely got some good insight. He was on the team, and we were doing some basketball stuff, but he was the basketball guy, and he got a little busy with family.
Yep.
You play D1? Where do you play? Tell me Purdue, because they just beat number 5 Virginia. You play at UCLA for real?
That'd be sweet.
Damn, what's your name?
We got a celebrity up in
Yeah,
here
no
tonight.
joke. UCLA basketball player just coming right into the stream, disrupting everything.
What we like to hear. Hey, that's a good disruption to have.
Yeah, he said he should come on.
That's some talent
He
right
said he
there.
should come on the stream. I don't disagree.
I'd be down. Yep. I could talk terrible basketball. My crappy Pistons or, any other. Well, although my Michigan Wolverines were solid, they won the tourney and I think they're what, ranked 4 right now. I mean, they're pretty solid. Juwan Howard making them look good.
Oh, Juwan Howard, the son, huh?
Yeah, he's the coach. So,
Oh, Juwan Howard's the coach.
oh yeah, he
Oh, I
took
thought
over
you
after
meant.
Beeline went up.
He said he's
Oh
not
no, not
he's not putting his name out there, and I understand.
completely
Um,
understand.
Here you go. I'm gonna.
Well, I appreciate you hanging out, brother. That's sweet.
He said not with this username. Um, yeah, no, my IU team's doing pretty well so far too, and they just beat a ranked team last night. So not too shabby there. Well, welcome to the. No, I completely understand. Um, not going to pry on the name, but if you really play for
That's cool. I'm
UCLA,
glad you're
that's
here.
that's awesome, man. And we'd love to have you on
Yeah.
the show sometime. Um, Back to the show. We do want to announce that we have some really awesome rookie content coming. It is going to start coming very soon. We've got a whole team of guys that are working on it. We're trying to put together a really awesome format. We do recommend that everybody gets over to YouTube, hits that subscribe button because this rookie content that we're bringing is going to be hot. These videos are going to be in depth. We're going to be talking about what each rookie is good at, what they struggle at, um, and then start looking at, uh, you know, their strengths as a college player and what they did on the field as a college football player. And then we'll do follow up videos once the combine gets there talking about how they performed at the combine, and then another one after they get drafted, and we'll factor in their college tape, their combine, and their landing spot to give you the best analysis possible of where you should be drafting these guys come rookie draft season in April. So be looking for that. It's coming real soon. There will be an article to go with every video, and it'll be really, really in depth. So look forward to that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like us on Facebook, and make sure you get in the Facebook groups. We've got multiple for redraft, dynasty, DFS. So make sure you do that. But yes, like, subscribe wherever you're at.
We appreciate it.
I don't know how to pronounce your name. Quilmiss9, maybe. Welcome to the stream. Brad, why don't you take us into a little bit of the weekly news? Part of it's going to make us throw up, but we better get into it anyway.
Get that vomit out of the way first for all of you G-Men fans. Your save looks to be starting this weekend, so batten down the hatches. He's going against Philly. That's sad and terrifying, but it's also because Daniel Jones has an ankle issue right now. So it looks like they'll be dusting off the corpse of Eli Manning to start a game at least this week. How does that make you feel for any of you guys that are doing super flex or things like that? Is Eli Manning worth even trotting out there if you're in dire need of help?
I would not put him out there. There's better options. I am worried about Slayton. Like, he's completely off my board. He's not playable. I would sit him at all cost. Shepard isn't the deep threat, so he's fine. Evan Ingram looks like he might be able to suit up Monday night. He's fine. It might actually help Saquon because he might just get a shit ton of dump offs. Golden Tate would be fine if he suits up, but they're more on volume now. Short volume game. It's just, I don't know that the touchdown upside's there with that offense. They're not going to move the ball real well. Those 3 or 4 guys are going to get all the targets, though. There's not going to be a lot to go to anybody else, so it's going to be consolidated. Likely one of them's going to bust, and the other ones are going to have 7 catches apiece or something for, 45 to 55 yards, and then a couple of them are going to land in the end zone and get you some points. But, I mean, there's just not that upside that there is with Daniel Jones. But I will say that the one thing that's going to be different is they're probably not going to turn the ball over as much. Jones was fumbling the ball a lot. And Eli here lately, since he doesn't throw it down the field, hasn't thrown a lot of interceptions. So, it's going to be ugly, but they should keep the ball.
And I see Quill Miles over in the YouTube chat wants to know about any news on, I'm assuming it's Brandon Cooks and James Conner. I think
he's talking about Dalvin Cook, probably.
Oh, you think he put the S on the end, so maybe one. Dalvin Cook reports out of Minnesota is he's fine. He's not been limited in practice this week, so at this point, I think you're okay. James Conner is listed as limited today on their practice report, so he's still questionable. And
if he's practicing on Wednesday, he's probably going to be good unless he has a setback.
Yeah, well, Connor's limited, so
but
from what I've seen, limited doesn't always mean you're out. Limited just means they're being careful with you.
Yeah, but on a Wednesday, if you're limited, then you're probably going to be at which for one, he doesn't even have to practice in full. But if he gets a practice in Friday, even if it's limited, then he's probably real likely to go. But I don't know, man. That Pittsburgh offense scares me.
Well, it's tough. You never know from week to week what you're getting. I mean, especially with Hodges in there. I mean, he's very inconsistent. He's very erratic. He's kind of, I mean, obviously he's a better option than Mason Rudolph, but it's a tough offense to really like any of those pieces right now.
He said yes. He's talking about Dalvin Cook. Um,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Cook
I think
should be
he's going to be
good.
good. He said that he could have played later in that game the other day, but
Said he was fine.
they held him out for precaution. He might not get as much work. He might split a little bit more than normal the first week after that injury. Doug wants to know what's wrong with Danny Dimes. He has a high ankle sprain, and he's most likely to miss Monday night unless it heals up real quick. But it's not looking good for him for this week.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of reports out of New York that the expectation is, Eli's going to go against Philly.
And that makes me glad to have a buy in the super flex that I pair Daniel Jones with Lamar Jackson in. So thank the Lord
Oh
there.
yeah, that's the league that I traded to
Yep.
you. I got lucky. My Gardner Minshew's coming back to the
Right.
starting fold.
I thought of you as soon as I seen that he was coming back, which is our next bit of news. Um, the
Yeah.
Nick Foles era in Jacksonville might be over already. I think it's kind of he got the short end of the stick here. I'm not a Minshew lover like Brad is. Um, but
Look at your face. You don't even know how to. You don't even got facial hair. How are you going to respect a man with such a beautiful stash if you don't got one
well,
yourself?
for one, I don't care who has a stash. I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's got a big old beard. But
Well, that thing's.
I just Minshew. I don't know. I don't know. He had a little, little flame there, and we've seen that before.
No.
The Matt Castles of the world. Um, so I'm just not. I'm not sold on him, but man, Jacksonville's going to have to figure out what they're doing because they just signed Foles to a big contract. But this is exactly the reason why you probably shouldn't be doing that. Stefan, we'll get to your question in just 1 second. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that does for this offense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it. You saw earlier in the year, it kind of gave a boost to Shark and the other guys, kind of like your Chris Connolly's and Keenan. Was it Keelan Coles? I mean, those guys go back to mediocrity. DD should still be okay because he was starting to have a good rapport. It doesn't help your tight end, although they don't really have a usable tight end anyway. They'll lean back on the running game more, and then some big plays down the field. I think
Shark
would be what we
really,
would expect.
I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago when Foles returned. He's had some success with Foles too. He
Right.
started off. I think he had a touchdown in game one before Foles got hurt, and then I think he had that 35-point performance the week that Foles came back, or the second week he was back, or something. So I
Uh,
don't know that it makes much of a difference. I just think that there was so much excitement when they had Minshew because of Minshew mania, but this dude turned the ball over a shit ton too.
right. Yeah, he threw like what 11 interceptions or
And
whatever.
his fumbles were the big issue, I thought. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think now if they're gonna do it, I don't. Do they have a path to the playoffs?
They're not out of it yet, but it's not good. I mean, they're fringe. They'll probably lose this week and be out of the playoffs.
Yeah. So,
Last time I checked.
well, they
So
play
I
the
mean,
Chargers this week, and I think they can beat the Chargers. But I mean, the Chargers find ways to lose. I just said it last week. Like, out of all the teams, the Browns bad, disappointing. Miami Dolphin fans right now, Cincinnati Bengals fans. Like, I feel bad for all of them. But is there anything worse than being a Chargers fan? They are. They've always got a good roster, and they just find ways to lose. It is just crazy how they find ways to lose.
no, it's the weirdest thing, especially because of the makeup of the roster. I mean, there's other than a crappy offensive line, they've got really nice skill players along the offense and the defense. I mean, and even now, Derwin James is back from his injury. It's like, man, I don't know why you guys keep losing because you got more talent than
And
half the
this goes
teams you're
back
facing.
years, not just this year. Like,
Yeah, no, back to
yeah,
the
it's
LT days.
crazy. Stefan says flex this week. Pick two. DJ Moore versus Atlanta. He's in. He's in your lineup. DJ Moore. is in the lineup:
Yeah.
Devontae Parker, Tevin Coleman, or Kareem Hunt, or Debo Samuel. I can tell
Probably
you,
Parker just on
I
volume.
was going to say, I can tell you who it's not, and it's not Coleman or Samuel.
No. No.
Um, Kareem Hunt's matchup versus Cincy with the work he's getting is a fine play. But Devontae Parker, as much as I dislike him, is putting up numbers right now with Fitzpatrick. They're kind of like in the same vein as, John Brown and Josh Allen. They're like made for each
Hmm.
other. They are a perfect match. um, and New York Jets don't scare you really. Um, I am actually starting Ryan Fitzpatrick over Drew Brees this week. So I like that offense against the Jets, and that pair with no Preston Williams, that pair is pretty good. Um,
Yeah, he's their top target. I mean, it's him and Mike Gesicki. That's really all they've got. So,
yeah, so I'm playing Moore and Parker there myself. Um,
yeah. Wilmus over on YouTube wants to know who's the better start this week, John Brown or DJ Chark. I picked DJ Chark just because Brown's going against a really stingy Baltimore defense, and he'll probably have Marcus Peters on him most of the game, and that's a pretty tough matchup.
I'm going John Brown.
Okay.
He has been he doesn't have he's only had like one really really high end game this year, but this dude's floor is about as safe as it gets. um I I guess if you really need big upside, they both have upside, but uh you know Shark's gonna be, you know what, it's John Brown hands down for me, because I'll take Marcus Peters over Casey Hayward.
Yeah. But see, I was thinking that, because Didi and Shark are pretty similar. Like, I was thinking that, well, I don't know if Hayward could really shadow one
uh
of them the entire game because they don't really have a solid number two to cover whoever Hayward isn't covering.
is Hayward gonna go in the slot, because
But,
that's where
but
Didi comes out of?
yeah, I don't know. He doesn't really. He typically stays on the outside, so it could be Sharky's on most of the game. And that'd be a shutdown for Shark
Yeah,
then.
I
And that's a
I'm
tough.
going John Brown. And the big reason for me is John Brown can beat anybody deep, and Josh Allen can throw a deep ball with anybody in the league, which is why they're made for each other. But this year he's done a lot more, especially with eight
He's gotten
nine
much
catch
better.
games for him. I am actually pulling up here just for a second opinion. And this is what I do. A lot of times when I have guys that I'm not 100% sure on, I go and look at Fantasy Pros consensus rankings, weekly rankings. I will say that they do have Shark ahead of John Brown. Um, I just think, when we look at John Brown from a PPR, stats, he has just been so consistent. I think he's only been under 10 points one time this year.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Um,
consistent.
Wait, this last week he was under 10 points. 3 for 26,
Mm.
5.6. I feel like he got to 10 somehow. He threw, didn't he throw a touchdown?
Yeah. Didn't he throw that touchdown to Devin
I think
Singletary?
so. I think he threw one, which doesn't have it on this stats, but yeah, I personally go John Brown for safety. If you need upside, then I wouldn't argue against Shark. Stefan says he's a Chargers fan. It's awful. I was hoping the London talks were true so it could give me a reason to cut ties.
Womp, womp, womp.
Magaboni says, "Yo, what's up, man?" TTV Jerry the Lobster says hello for over on Twitch. Magaboni wants
So,
us to look at a picture of them. Not going to do that. Um, Yeah, he had 10.7 PPR points. Quilmus says. Andrew Michael says, "What up, fam? How you doing out there? Thanks for tuning in, everybody. As we go through, just continue dropping your questions. If we don't answer them right away, don't worry, we will get to them. But first things first, Brad, you had this discussion come up in one of your leagues this week, and you wanted to talk about it on the stream. So if you're out there watching, we'd love to hear your opinion. Um, why don't you go ahead and tell the fans out there what the discussion was about?"
So there's a couple are winding down. They tend to want to bring up, what do we want to change for next year? Are there any things we want to vote on as a league to make different about it? And one guy brought up that he wants to get rid of the trading deadline, period. Now, others have said, well, what if we just push it back into, week one of the playoffs or something like that? So it kind of brought up this larger debate of trade deadlines, period. And what are your thoughts and feelings on them? So typically, any leagues I'm in, most of the time it's kind of like one of the last 2 weeks of the regular season before the Thursday night games is the trade deadline. So week 12, 13, whatever the last week is for regular season, things like that. So it's kind of brought this broader, what value does it add saying, hey, there's a cutoff for trades? What does it do to the league overall? One person brought up the concern with, well, collusion, and things like that. So I kind of wanted to throw that out there and just kind of get a feel for what people are thinking, what you're thinking. For me, I don't necessarily. It doesn't matter to me because as soon as the trade time opens back up after the season, I just start sending out trades again. So for a few weeks we know trade. Well, so be it. I get the other 9, 10 months to trade. Who cares? So what's your take on trade deadlines and things like that?
I will not, and I would never play in a league that allows you to trade during the playoffs. Um, and it's not just collusion based, which people say if you're worried about, excuse me, collusion, you should find different league mates. But if we thought people weren't going to do stuff, or if we knew they weren't going to, then nobody would ever be in that position, right? Like
Right.
it's not like uh, when people get cheated on in a relationship, they were like, oh, I'm gonna date this person because I think they'll cheat on me. Um, so you can't just say that. Like shitty people can come out of nowhere. You never know what type of backroom deals somebody's going to make. But that's not even the main reason really that I don't like it. I just think that you get to the playoffs with your team. And if I get to the playoffs and I have, a pretty deep roster that gets me there, and then I can make moves and trade, maybe I trade 6 players for 3 studs, you know, and then it completely changes the way my team looks. Like, I just don't like that. And I don't want,
Right.
I think people should get there. And obviously, if injuries happen, like, that's unfortunate. It's the same thing in real sports.
Right.
If the Packers make it to the playoffs and then Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, they can't go trade for another quarterback. They got to go with what they've got. Or if you know Michael Thomas gets hurt for uh, the Saints, they got to use the next guy up. And I understand this is fantasy, but it's that the theory behind that's the same. You shouldn't be able to change your team drastically when it comes playoff times. I have no problem with waivers running, um, because especially like in redraft, it matters a lot because you might not even be able to field a roster if 3 guys end up sitting out. Um, but and when it comes to trades, I don't think you should be able to go out and acquire a Christian McCaffrey when somebody misses. Um, because they were trying to squeak into the 6th seed and they got 7th, and now they can unload McCaffrey for an ungodly amount. Like it changes everything, and I just don't think that's the way that it should be played.
Mm. It's good. Yeah, it's tough for me. Like I don't, I don't worry so much about the owners that I'm in leagues with. But I also, I'm okay. I like making changes to the league when it makes it a better play, like adding IDP or making it super flex, like changing scoring. Not I have never really thought about the whole idea of the trade deadline and trading in the playoffs. Like it never registered with me until recently. People started bringing it. I'm all for changing scoring systems, adding more ways to spice things up. If especially the my home dynasty league has been going since like 2000. So okay, we need to spice this thing up. It's getting a bit stale. We're adding taxi squads and changing it to tight end premium. And I thought about trade deadlines. I mean, that just didn't even fathom with me.
Yeah, I just like I said, my biggest thing is there are different ways to get to the playoffs, right? So there are teams that are top heavy that get there. There are teams that just have depth. They have a bye week, they're not hurting because they have another guy to plug right in. When they have an injury, they have another guy to plug right in. I think when you allow trading in that position, like Michael says, doesn't that help bad teams get better in those situations? I'm not even saying somebody's going to overpay. Like it incentivizes people and bad teams to trade for even less
Mm-hmm.
because now they know they're out of the playoffs. Those fringe teams once they're out, but that same urgency is created with the normal trade deadline. Teams that want to get draft picks. We do in all my leagues that I run. And for those of you out there that are new, I run 396 team leagues, 48 team league, and one, two, three, four 12-man leagues. Those are the ones that I run. We do the trade deadline the final week of the regular season in that league. So some of the leagues are 12 weeks, some of them are 13. I take up until the Thursday game of that last week of the season, except for this year, it fell on Thanksgiving. So we did Wednesday uh, at 11 o'clock instead. Um, but that's what we do. You create that same urgency. If you're out of the playoffs or if you're in the playoffs, like that gives you an opportunity the same as me. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. I would never ever play in a league that allowed you to trade in the playoffs.
Okay, that's good enough.
Um, Andrew Michael. Oh, never mind. Ryan Moody says pick two: Sutton, Landry, A. Rob. Um,
Sutton.
see, I mean, I'm going A. Rob no matter what. I understand people don't really like the matchup, but I mean, the matchup wasn't good last week either, and he still made the best of that. Um, it comes down to Landry and Sutton for me. I think Landry's the safest pick, and then Sutton would be the upside pick out of those two. Um, for me,
Yeah, I
Lock,
think.
it came on two plays, and it came in the first half, and then there was nothing really after that. Um, wouldn't say nothing, but it was
Yeah.
not as much as the first half. So I would go with I would go with A. Rob and Landry on the safe side. I would go with A. Rob and Sutton uh, if I needed more upside. I truly think that Ryan brings up, uh, and I can tell you right now that uh, like Fantasy Pro, because I was questioning it myself because I don't like the matchup. I'm not saying it's a good matchup, but I was questioning it myself. And as I mentioned earlier, I use Fantasy Pros consensus rankings to help me out. And Brad will tell you I'm real big on group think, right? I like having a lot of minds go into it. That's why I like Fantasy Pros weekly rankings. But they have A-Rob is a 11 overall wide receiver.
Wow.
Who does Indy play?
Indy plays Tampa Bay. So they got good run defense, but they're back.
I'm I'm taking Indy. Eli doesn't turn it over. Jameis Winston does.
Yeah, but I'm thinking sacks. I'm thinking, sack fumbles, things like that. Philly's got a solid defensive line that can get to the
I'll,
quarterback, especially as soft as that Giants line is.
I'll take Indy on Jameis throwing pick sixes and all that fun stuff. So you'll have to find a tiebreaker somewhere else. Paul says King 782 all hearts, Rivers 10 non heart, 6-9. Do you call 1200? Uh, no, and you shouldn't have been in there anyway.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it. Obviously, if I was sitting there, I might know something that I don't know here, but it's definitely not worth it.
Oh.
Pick 2: Sterling Shepard, Cortland Sutton, Lockett, or Debo.
Debo's just been lighting it up lately, but man, that's a tough one. I'd probably go
right?
Debo.
Lattimore on Debo this week.
Facing the Saints, aren't they? That'll be a tough one.
Shepard, I think.
Shepard should get a ton of targets.
He's going to get a ton of targets. Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably go Shepard.
I'm pulling up here. This is the week 14 consensus rankings. They have changed some. Allen Robinson has dropped to number 16 overall. Cortland Sutton's 18 overall. So they're probably saying Sutton. What was our other one that we talked? It was Sutton, Landry, and Robinson, right?
Yeah.
They are saying Robinson and Sutton. 16, 18, and Landry 20.
Sutton's going to be covered by? He's going against the Chargers, right? No. They've got Jacksonville this week.
Yeah.
Right? That'll be a tough matchup for him.
No. Jacksonville has Chargers.
Oh, Jacksonville. I'm getting mixed up. Hold on.
Yeah,
let me
this
see
doesn't even give me. Sutton.
Yeah.
Sutton and Lockett's not even on here. Oh yeah, he is. Lockett 12. Probably Sutton and Lockett. Shepard's probably way down here.
That was his first game back from after an injury, so I wasn't expecting Locke to have a huge game against Minnesota, but out of it okay, so should be a good week for him.
Is it? Oh, this is rest of season. I'm on the wrong one. Yeah, Ryan says Houston. We only picked like 9 different teams. We were eventually going to get to the one they were actually playing. Yes, okay. So this week, PPR weekly rankings. We talked about Shark earlier. They've got him up at 11.
11. Yeah, but his matchup against LA is going to be.
Yeah, I don't.
Sutton's at 18. Allen Robinson's even lower than that.
Are you on PPR
Sutton and Lockett here as well. Yeah, I'm on PPR.
A-Rob was 16.
Oh yeah, there is. Yep. So it's A-Rob and Sutton in this consensus. Like where I don't see him. Where is he?
Not a problem, John. If you guys have any more questions, go ahead and drop them in. What were you?
I've got one question.
You've got a question?
So do you trust Goff because my
What are your
quarterback.
other
So
options? Let's hear the other options.
this is our super flex league. My other options are Duck Hodges, Eli Manning, or Minshew because I've got Ryan Tannehill as my starter as well. So it's Hodges, Manning, Minshew. I mean, Seattle's secondary soft, but it's them in their first matchup. He only got like 17 points against them the first time around. But he just tore up a Cardinal secondary, which is weak. I mean, and Seattle's not that great either.
I gotta go Goff.
That's what I was
As
thinking.
much as I don't love it, I've got to. I mean, I'm having the same question in one league where I can play Drew Lock or Jimmy Garoppolo.
They both got tough matches.
I
Jimmy G
well,
against New
Drew
Orleans.
Lock versus Houston. Houston's a green, so I don't know.
Sitting on is Hodges is playing Arizona, and Arizona's defense loves to give up points. But I
Yeah,
don't trust the rookie.
yeah, it's tough. Um, MathQuest over on YouTube says, please pick two receivers: Parker, Amari Cooper, Lockett, Sutton. Standard scoring. Standard scoring. I think I like the touchdown upside of Parker.
Yep.
Um,
I would probably go Parker and Sutton in that
um,
case. Amari Cooper's listed at
yeah, Cooper. The
21.
problem is the Bears will give up yards and receptions, but they don't give up a lot of touchdowns to the receivers. And
Well, and isn't it the slot receiver that does well against
well, right
Chicago?
now any receiver is. I mean, you saw Galladay hit a 75-yarder. Um, Amukamara. I told you guys last Wednesday, didn't I? I told you play the pass catchers against Chicago. Amukamara is not playing well right now.
No.
Fuller can be beat. The number two receiver is normally the one to look for because Amukamara was shutting people down.
Right.
But here of late, it's been anybody. The slot is where you don't want to play anybody versus the Bears because Buster Screen has actually played really well this year. And last year, Bryce Callahan played really well. So they've shut down the slot guys um, for the most part. But yeah, I mean, Cooper is Cooper, and he's always good to break one off. But I'd probably go probably go Parker and Cooper. Um, I didn't look at standard here. I don't play in any standard leagues, so I could be off. I will.
I'm looking at standard right now. Park 19, Cooper's at 21, and Lockett
Is down
is
there.
well, Lockett's actually at 15.
Oh, Lockett's ahead of them guys.
Actually, yeah, he's ahead of all of them.
Yeah, Parker and Lockett. But man, it worries me. I wish I knew who Ramsey was going to be on. He's probably got to take Metcalf, right? With Lockett coming out of the slot and Metcalf doing most of his work on the outside, and he's just more of a physical
Yeah,
specimen.
yeah.
Um,
I mean Lockett, yeah.
okay, Ryan Moody says in Superflex he has Blow. It's Blau, right? Blau,
He's on blow if he starts blow.
Blau or Allen. Other QB
Um,
is Dak, and also have Stafford, but doesn't look like he will be back. Um, okay, so we've got
Blau is going against Minnesota.
which Minnesota's pass defense hasn't been as good as their run defense. But they did look decent the other night.
Yeah, against Seattle they look pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So,
yeah. Then
um,
who is the other one? Kyle Allen, I bet is what he's saying.
yeah, Kyle Allen.
Oh, Kyle Allen's going
If
against.
it's Josh Allen, it's no brainer.
That's
If
yeah.
it's Kyle Allen versus Atlanta, I probably go with him over Blau.
Kyle Allen's ranked at 2, and Blau is ranked at 30.
Which quarterbacks like I don't
Kyle
look
Allen's
as
going
much.
against Atlanta too, so that's a pretty
That's
soft matchup.
that's what I'm saying. Is that even if he would have been ranked ahead, I probably take that matchup versus Atlanta for Kyle Allen. All these guys from after, you know, Darnold, the rest of these
Hmm.
guys are all like the same group. all these starters. So it's like all interchangeable to me from there to 30, depending on if you like someone. That's why I was wondering about Drew Lock versus Houston over Jimmy Garoppolo against New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously Dak's in there. You're playing Dak, and I think he already knew that. And then I go Kyle Allen versus Atlanta. Um, I mean, really, when you look at Blau's stats from the other night, you know that one blown coverage by Chicago where Galladay had the 75-yard touchdown, a lot of his numbers on that one pass. So um, yeah,
He was
keep
throwing interceptions like crazy in the second half. So
yeah, and some that should have been that weren't. Um, okay, keep on dropping them questions. We're gonna talk about some other guys that maybe you weren't thinking about, but are guys that could really propel you when it comes to the playoff season. Um, do you have any guy in mind off the top of your head, or maybe that you have on a piece of paper in front of you if you had notes, um, that
we don't do notes. What kind of shit
that
is
would
notes?
would not be like somebody obvious? Obviously we're playing Christian McCaffrey in the playoffs, but somebody else that's a secondary type player that you're going, man, this guy could really help me out for the championship run.
Well, for me, it was a guy that I mean, it's a name that people have been talking about here recently. Some, but I went and targeted Ryan Tannehill in most of my leagues. Are just amazing. He's got Oakland this week. He's got Houston twice in the next 4 weeks. I mean, he's got some pretty soft matchups where he should give you a lot of good points. So that was when you brought up this topic. That was kind of the first name. Like, yeah, some people have been talking about him, but some people are still kind of down on him. Catch run here that should be helpful for your team. What about you?
uh, going to the quarterback position, especially if you're one of those guys. Like if I'm in redraft, I'm always streaming the quarterback. Like I'm never drafting one high. I'm always streaming. But another guy that has been playing really well, fantasy considerations here, people, when you're listening, but even really in real life, Ryan Fitzpatrick. And when you look
Mm.
at his matchups here down the stretch,
Yeah,
my computer's
Giants. Then
freezing up on me.
he
Um, what was that?
faces the Jets, the Giants, then Cincy. I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah, you can't ask for a better 14 to 16. I think he's actually got the third weakest schedule amongst all quarterbacks. Ryan Tannehill might have been second. Um, but out of the guys that you wouldn't really expect, he's a guy. This week, my biggest league, $250 buy-in. That's the biggest league I do. Um, I'm playing him over Drew Brees. Obviously, Drew Brees plays San Francisco, but it's still Drew Brees and it's still Ryan Fitzpatrick. But I'm starting
Right.
Ryan Fitzpatrick over him. When you look, two of the last three games over 300 yards, five touchdowns in the last two games. This dude doesn't even have talent around him. Like I swear, I wish we could see him on a good team. Like he's had good receivers, but I wish we could see him on a good team because he's only played on one good team. So he's always been trailing. He's always been a gunslinger. He's going to throw interceptions because he's trailing all the time. What would happen if we had Ryan Fitzpatrick on a team with a good defense like Chicago when I said they should have traded for him earlier this season with weapons? Him throwing to A-Rob with a lead,
Huge. Yeah.
like I would have loved to see it, but yeah, I'm excited for his playoff stretch. There's a good chance that I will end up starting him over Drew Brees multiple times in the playoffs.
Hmm. Yeah, I can't argue that one. Looking at the rest of the kind of the quarterback, there really isn't any others that stick out to me as guys. I'm like, ooh, we got to do that. You know, Andy Dalton has a fairly soft schedule, but I don't trust that offense. You know, but he's I guess a guy if you're desperate needs, super flex wise, you might be able to throw him in as he's facing pretty soft Cleveland defense. He's got Miami in there as well. So, but I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying if you're desperate, he's got some soft matchups.
that's John Hudson just said this in the chat. Sam Darnold would be the other one that I would take a look at. Obviously, he's got Miami this week, uh, and he's been on fire ever since he was seeing ghosts. I think he had one more like off game coming back from mononucleosis, and then has been hotter than hell here of late. So.
Yeah, but it's going to be tough after Miami. He's got Baltimore, Pittsburgh. I mean, those are some solid defenses. I mean, maybe not
Yeah, I
offenses,
was
but
going to look at his schedule because I wasn't sure. This week, good. Rest of season, not so much. But you have to win week 14 to get to week 15. And that's what I always tell
sure.
people. And that's why I'm a big advocate of quarterbacks streaming them. Because when you get to this point of the season, like it don't matter that it's Drew Brees.
Hmm.
That boy's got a tough matchup this week. Patrick Mahomes in week 16. Do you really want to start Patrick Mahomes in the? I think it's week 16. I'd got to double check, but versus
Chicago.
Chicago,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, his next three
yeah,
games are tough. He's got New England, good defense. Denver, decent defense. Chicago, I mean, and he's got two running backs that are hurt. Both Williams boys probably won't play. I mean, that's the way. I mean, it's you got to weigh that into the decision. And it's tough for some guys. Like I've got a chat going with one of our guys. He's direct messaging me about streaming defenses, and this week the Bucks defense has a nice matchup against Indy, but well, what about Baltimore? I'm like, well, Baltimore's facing Buffalo, and Buffalo's facing Baltimore. I mean, those defenses are good, but they're also facing really good offenses, so that makes it a concern. You know, things like that. So it's tough, but once it comes to playoff time, I'm like you. It doesn't matter who the guy is. If he's not going to have a good
when
matchup, I
it
may not play
comes
him.
to defenses, you have to play defenses that are against offenses that turn the ball over. That's how you get the big points. I mean, it's the same thing. I wrote an article on it for DFS, and when you're streaming, it's the same thing. You've, you know, last year Chicago had a bunch of turnovers. That's why their defense was so good. Like they're still a top four defense in real football, but they're not getting the turnovers and the touchdowns that they got last year. So they have not been a good fantasy defense this year. You got to target those guys that turn the ball over. Winston turns the ball over a shit ton. You're always playing defenses against him. Josh Allen's prone to turning the ball over, so you can play defenses versus him. He hasn't been as bad this year. He's been a lot better at it, I will say. Daniel Jones, when he's playing, fumbles the ball a lot. Minshew fumbles the ball a lot. That's how you get those defensive touchdowns, which really make a defense. So people, if you're streaming, look for those guys that are prone to turn it over. That's why we started defenses versus Peterman. Dude threw pick sixes.
Hmm.
Matt Schaub. Remember that stretch? I think he had 3 straight games where he threw a pick six.
Yeah,
Um, that's why you're targeting those guys, because the pick sixes is where you really get the money from, or the fumble recovery for a touchdown. That's where you really get them points from. So it doesn't matter. Like for one, the Bears offense sucks. So if a defense is playing against them, as much as Mitchell Trubisky has sucked, I think he's only turned the ball over 8 times this year. That's nothing. I mean, Winston did it 13 times in a 4-game stretch.
it's ridiculous.
Who would you rather start, Brady, Cousins, or Fitzmagic? Well, I know it's not Brady because he's not playing well right now. And when we get into these running backs, I will tell you, one of them. Um, Cousins actually has a matchup this week that I almost plugged him in one of my DFS lineups that I was making earlier today. So I don't mind Cousins um, there over Fitz.
Yeah, I'm okay with over Fitz, but both of them have decent matchups. I mean, the Jets aren't anything to write home about, and the Lions aren't either. So
Um, I just watched Mitch Trubisky light up the Lions, talking about somebody not playing well.
Right.
I go Cousins there. I like his weapons more. Um, when you talk about Diggs, and even though he didn't have a good game the other night, and he dropped a couple passes, that bounce back game is coming. Um, I go Cousins. Uh, Ryan Moody says running backs. Maybe we've got some Geis love, and some Singletary. Uh,
I think they're up. Yeah.
okay, Geis is making a lot of his money on really big plays right now, and that always worries me. Which I will tell you that I started Ronald Jones over him in V1 last week. I'm the
I think.
guy that left.
Oh, well.
I'm the guy that left Darius Geis, Duke Johnson, and who was Lazard on my bench, and
Oh,
in one league. Optimal one almost 200. Actual lineup 144. 134. I mean 134. So talk about leaving 65 points on the bench. Not very good.
rough.
Uh, my first running back is Sony Michel. Um, Brady's not playing well. Sony obviously isn't exciting. He doesn't catch the ball a lot, but when we look into that, like the playoff stretch last year, Sony was the guy. And they've got KC this week. KC is one of the worst defenses versus the run. They can't stop anybody. If you're looking to take some pressure off of Brady, what do? You stuff
I'm
it
not.
with Sony Michel. It's Sony Michel really hasn't even been bad. Their offensive line's been horrendous at times. Uh, so his yards per carry doesn't look good, but he's been better over the last 2 weeks. 30 carries for 130 yards for 4.2 or whatever the hell that works out to. 4.3 in one game, 4.5 in another. Busting off a little more longer plays, but Kansas City trash against the run. Cincinnati trash against the run. And Buffalo, where Buffalo gets hurt, is on the ground, not through the air. Um, so I like Sony. I'm not saying that he's going to be like a huge, he's not going to put up like McCaffrey or Cook numbers, but as a guy that you can plug in there and has touchdown upside and uh, a decent amount of carries. I think he'll be more in the 15 to 20 range rather than the 10 that he gets in some games, but he should be over 20 multiple times in this stretch. I think Sony could sneak in and be on some rosters that win a ship.
Yeah, I like Sony Michelle. I mean, he's definitely got that spark in Allen and that perfect matchups. I mean, he's got a lot of good matchups. Kind of similar to this guy that I've never been a big fan of, but that's Philip Lindsay. His matchups for the rest of the season soft. Royce Freeman's nursing injuries. He's got injuries. He may not be playing. I know the offense has not been great, but going against Houston, going against KC, going against Detroit coming up, you got those are some pretty nice matchups for him. I could see him sneaking in and having some good games. He's had some this year already as well. But I was trying to think about, as you were talking, I was trying to think, wow, man, Rex. I mean, I could think of the big names and the guys. I wanted to throw Bo Scarborough here, but Kerryon Johnson might be coming back from injury. They've deemed him as returning from injury. They've taken him off IR. So Philip Lindsay's. So I don't know how strong I am about that, but the matchups look nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this to load here because I want to look at schedules, full schedules. Um, MathQuest. Yes, I'm going to get back to Sunday mornings. Just this past week was my birthday, and I slept in. I'll be completely honest. I slept in till like noon, and enjoyed my birthday morning. And then the week before, I was just extremely busy working for Black Friday. I work in marketing, so I had clients that needed Black Friday stuff. I was working on that stuff. So yes, this Sunday morning I will be back, and throughout the playoffs I will be doing Sunday mornings. Um, yep, he's off the board because week 15 blows. Um, thank you very much. Um, Darius Geis is enticing. He's got Green Bay this week, who's not good against the run. But man, he's still splitting, and he's making so much of that through big plays. Um, I'm pulling up his game log right now. I should have had all these
What
open
about?
in tabs, but
I'll say, what about a guy like Miles Sanders, the Redskins and Dallas over the next 3 weeks? Those are pretty decent matchups.
who is that?
Um,
I'm sorry.
Miles Sanders.
Yeah, but Jordan Howard comes back, and then what happens? See, that's my
Very true.
worry with him. You know, like you said, like Kansas City, like what's going to happen? Darwin Thompson, if we knew that the Williams boys were going to be out, Darwin Thompson could be a guy that plays the Damian Williams role from a year before. Jonathan Williams for the Colts may have lost his shot, but I thought he was a guy that was going to be able to do similar things to what you said, Bo Scarborough. I
Right.
do want to look at what's Arizona's schedule like down the stretch because Kenyon Drake's the guy in Arizona. Um, Last week didn't work out well, but uh,
It's Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Seattle. Those aren't very good matches.
yeah, that's not ideal. But at least he catches the ball some. Um, you can't.
Unfortunately, Pittsburgh, you got to stay away from because you don't know. Connor's in if he's playing. Benny Snell. I mean, you got so many guys there. It's tough come playoff time.
Quilma says PPR Penny or Guys.
Penny's got the talent. I'm just not sure that they're going to be able to give them both as many touches as they need. I mean,
I'm I'm taking Guys against Green Bay because I feel like he's got a better shot at getting more of the share. They still, they came. Carson fumbles twice the week before. They come back out and it's Carson's show until he gets popped and almost has to leave the game for a concussion.
uh,
And then they still used him after that. Like if they loved Penny that much, they could have just used Penny the rest of the game, and there would have been like people wouldn't have questioned it if that's what they're worried about. But they love Carson, and they've said time and time again that Carson's their guy. Um, so that worries me. Now, Adrian Peterson hasn't went away yet, but he has a better chance of going away than Carson does. And
yeah.
that's why I would go Geis. Um, and we see he's got the big play ability. Penny does too, um, but yeah, I would go Geis in that matchup versus Green Bay for sure.
So what do you got at receiver? Who's somebody you've been thinking about?
Well, this is kind of a homer pick, but you know, Gabriel continues to sit out for Chicago, and Anthony Miller continues to put up some stats out of the slot there, and they're finally using him correctly. He's finally getting the work, and people last week were saying this guy's you can't even start this guy, and I was saying yes you can. Like I watch Chicago more than most people do probably because I watch every game, and the last 3 weeks, last 4 weeks, he's been putting up numbers, and it's been a safe play. I think his floor in the last 4 weeks is like 11 fantasy points, um, which I'll take. And we seen his upside last week with 9 for 140. Um, this week's the one that's scary, but I just think the volume's going to be there, and that's why I still like Robinson. Robinson's at that's standard. Um, so that would be one guy that I've been thinking about in that situation, but I am openly saying that it's somewhat of a homer pick. Um, Um, I
So
lost
look
my
at
train of
well, it's
lost my
tough.
train of thought. Clients texting me when I'm live.
No, it's okay. I mean, I'm just looking up and down the list of guys. Like, there's some names that stand out to me that have been playing hot recently. But I like a homer pick for me would be Debo Samuel. I've been banging the table all year for him, and over the last 6 7 weeks, he's averaging over 10 points a week. I mean, that's a pretty solid floor for him. Problem I have for Debo is that he doesn't always getting a ton of targets. Like last week, 2 targets or it's touchdown, got him over double digits, but that's not a lot of action. Now he faces New Orleans this week, but he's got Atlanta, he's got the Rams. I mean, he's got ups for kind of a sneaky guy,
That
But
Rams one is sneaky though.
well, it depends on him, But
Who
Debo tends to get moved around a lot, so I don't know that Ramsey would be on him.
Ram? Who else is Ramsey going to go on?
Daniel Sanders would be the only other thing I
Out of
could
the
think of,
slot?
but. Yeah. Who's in the slot is the question. I mean, I think Debo plays quite a bit in there as well. But for me, like that, he's someone that I'm like, all right, I'm intrigued, but I'm just not, because I think about guys like Jamison Crowder could have a big week this week against Miami, but he's so hit or miss, I
Now
couldn't
that
trust it. Like last week against Cincy, he had 9 targets, but only
yeah,
caught two of
and
them.
now that Darnold's gotten hot, he has Robbie Anderson's been the guy.
Right now, Robbie Anderson's been gotten good amount of targets. I also thought about a guy like James Washington. He's on here lately. I don't like the player a lot. I mean, he's okay, but he seems to be, getting a decent amount of
I
love.
love how you
But
throw that in there because James Washington's my dude. This
I
this
know I had to
dude's
chuckle
this
a little
dude's
at him.
good, man. He's put up 90 plus 3 of the last 4 games, but he's got that Buffalo matchup in the middle there. But
That's tough.
I think for receivers, you're less likely to get 3 good matchups
Yeah.
than with other positions. Um,
Well, yeah. And I think as a Washington owner, Juju comes back and is healthy for the Buffalo game, so Tre'Davious White's on him, and James Washington then doesn't have to get shadowed. One of the top corners in the league.
yeah, but what's the other guy's name there? He's really good too. It doesn't even matter. Their pass game's
They're good.
tough.
Yeah, they're
Um,
really good.
AJ Brown, we've been talking about Ryan Tannehill and his matchups in the playoffs. Oakland, Houston, New Orleans.
Pretty soft.
You know,
Could
week 16's not so hot, but I'll take Oakland and Houston to get me to the championship, and then you can look elsewhere. But he kind of underwhelmed last week too. Uh, it's been weird because the Beasleys of the world, the Humphreys of the world have come on of late, and it makes there's just not as many comfortable receivers. There's so much variance at the receiver position anyway, um, but it's just there's nobody that I'm like super confident about. Like Sammy Watkins had a pretty decent floor, didn't have upside, but then he puts up a freaking 0
right.
last week.
Well, what about a guy like Russell Gage from Atlanta? If you keep staying out, the last 2 weeks the dude's gotten 9 and 10 targets, and then
I
he's
love the
pumping.
volume.
Yeah,
I wanted to start him last week and I didn't.
I
Somehow
thought about it.
tell me how I picked up Russell Gage on game day of a game morning of a dynasty league.
Some guy's sleeping.
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to look at what was the Colts schedule. This is not loading for me at all
Let's see here.
because it has been, it's doubtful that Hilton plays the rest of the season. It sounds
Yeah,
like.
it looks like he might be out the rest of
So
the year. Pascal will be the guy there.
I was gonna say, what about Pascal's matchups here? Okay, I got it. Tampa Bay. That dude, it feels like Marcus Lattimore plays everybody in the playoffs. They play New
Yes,
Orleans in
Carolina.
15. I just feel like Marcus Lattimore keeps popping up in every discussion we have. And then Carolina, so Bradbury. So he's got two tough matchups there. But Paris Campbell is back at practice today. So if he plays, that might help in that scenario because he's more athletic than Pascal is.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I just think, man, it's so tough at receiver to get three good matchups in a row. Um,
You really kind of have to jump around. I mean, like a guy like Will Fuller, I wouldn't want him the next 2 weeks. He's facing Denver and Tennessee, but week 16 against Tampa Bay, he should have a
that could
decent
be
game,
one of his 40-point bombs if he's healthy by
yeah,
then. That's
that
a
could be a
long
big
time to
one.
wonder if he's going to be healthy though. Um,
Right.
I'm just looking through a couple more of these. I mean, Cole Beasley's a guy that matchups are he's really matchup proof because he can get that volume and he's getting it right now. So you can't really argue with that. Um,
Yeah, but he's
Mike
got some real
Williams,
tough defenses, man. I mean, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, New England. I mean,
yeah,
that's just a
but
rough
yeah,
slate
but
of games.
this I don't know for sure when it comes to Baltimore, but the Pittsburgh gets hurt by the slot receiver. What's their dude's name? Their slot receiver's name is not very good. He was always one of the lowest rated. He was somebody that I targeted in DFS all the time.
Oh, you're talking about let's see.
I know
I think it's Artie Burns, right?
no, I'd know it if I heard it.
Oh, well, there's Justin Lane or Cameron Sutton would be. Oh no, Mike Hilton. I'm
Mike
sorry,
Hilton.
Mike
Mike
Hilton. There,
Hilton.
yeah.
Yeah, Mike Hilton's not very good.
He
Okay.
really.
Mike Williams is a guy to look at. Week 14, 15, 16, Jacksonville, Minnesota, and Oakland. None of those really scare me.
Mm-mm.
He gets so much volume. He was, and then he wasn't catching any of it, so it kind of dropped. But, 7, 13, 10, 6, 6. And these are like deep targets, too. That's great volume for deep targets.
I mean, even last week against the
7.
Broncos, 7 targets, 5 for 117.
How does this dude not have a touchdown?
He was close. He was
Yeah.
close a couple of
It's
different
like
games,
DK
but
getting it down to the 1 yard line the other night so Carson could punch it in. Like, oh, you dick.
I think
I
Mike
needed
Williams is the new Julio Jones.
that.
Tons of
You
yards,
too.
no touchdowns.
Yeah, except for he doesn't have the 1,600 yards with 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
yeah, who else we got, guys? What other questions you got out there? I don't even know if we need to get into tight ends. Tight ends is something that you want to stream every week. If you don't
Yeah.
have the Kelseys and Kittles and Ingrams of the world, hopefully Ingram will be back this week. That's my tough decision this week, right? I went out and I picked up both of Ingram's backups.
Oh yeah.
So do I start Ryan Griffin on Sunday at 1 versus Miami, or do I wait for the upside of Evan Ingram, the superior talent, for Monday night? But if he doesn't play, I have to plug in Rhett Ellison or um, the rookie
Smith or whatever.
Caden
Yeah.
Smith, which he's played really well the last 2 weeks. Um, so that's my dilemma that I'm gonna have to figure out Sunday morning. Is do I want to go with Griffin? A lot of it'll happen if Robinson gets shut down tomorrow night. Then I probably got to go with the upside of Evan Ingram um, on Monday night to win me a week 14. So I'll have to figure that one out this week. I have another league where I have to hope that the uh, the flow chart versus Arizona works because Vance McDonald gets Arizona and he
Huge.
hasn't done shit. But everybody else but Tyler Eifert has done well against them at tight
Yeah.
end. So
You'd have to think McDonald has a really nice matchup week.
Ryan Griffin's definitely been a great stream, but I'll play. I'm never playing him over Evan Ingram if I know Evan Ingram's playing.
Right. Well, and
Even with
especially,
Eli.
well, I mean, and Ryan Griffin, I mean, Miami's an okay match. I mean, they do pretty well against the tight end. But Baltimore, Pittsburgh, I mean, those are tough matchups for a tight end. Um, I really wasn't him early in the year, but I had picked up Kyle Rudolph in a couple places, and he's been successful as of late. Like the last 5, 6 games, he's gotten back to form. Even a guy like
Well, you got to look at
like
Higby if
yeah,
Everett continues to miss time.
yep. Jack Doyle's another guy that you should start seeing more from with Ebron on IR. So there's options to
Mike
float around out
Gesicki has
there
been what,
that
tight end 5 over the last 4 weeks?
he's been pretty solid. And
Tight end's such a
who's the other guy?
garbage heap.
It is. It's rough right now. I mean, guys you'd expect to be studs like OJ Howard, or
Hey,
like
OJ
hit or
put up 11
miss.
last week. Still less than
Yeah.
the real OJ stabbed people. My back is killing me. Um, Jacob Hollister's another one. He's, with Russell Wilson, anybody can have a big game at any time. Um, let's see. Do we have any more questions out there?
We've done our allotted hour and a half of our short podcast.
Right?
We'll get it done early. Not so much.
I told you we had chat was on fire tonight though, so
That was
um,
good.
if chat's asking questions, I'll always hang around. Derrick Henry hamstring misses practice.
He better get his butt back in there.
Dude, he's one of the guys that is making me look bad.
He has a great matchup this week. He had a great matchup this week.
He is one of the guys that's making me look bad, that's for sure.
It's tough because coming into this year, I was trying not to have him anywhere, and then come trade deadline, I was picking him up at a couple places, trading for him in a couple places, and it's like, wow, he's really like all of a
Definitely an
sudden.
off-season sell, because this is what I was telling people.
Oh
I
yeah,
talked about this in the chat the other day on Discord, but like for a guy like him that doesn't catch the ball, you have to do so much extra running the ball to be in the same category as the pass catchers. But this year's been really, really weird because running backs haven't been catching the ball as much, just
mm-hmm.
in general. Um, last year I think there was only one guy in the top 15 that had less than 20 catches. That was Adrian Peterson at 15. After that, Philip Lindsay at 25. And then nobody else in the top 15 was under 44 catches through 13 weeks. This year, I think half of them, 8 of them, more than half, are under 44 catches. So,
Yeah, Derrick Henry only has
right.
17.
And then you got Josh Jacobs, I think has 18. Somebody else has 20. So you have 3 guys at 20 or below in the top 15. And then you've got 8 guys that have caught like under 32 or 34 or something. So it's a little bit weird year. At this point last year, he with what he's done this year, he would have been running back 10 instead of running back 5 that he is this year. If that makes sense, if I said that right.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Well, I mean, it's still good.
Oh, he's still
But
an RB1, but
right, but it just shows like
everything's
when you're not
down.
catching the ball and everything's down, but you've got to run for a shit ton of yards if you're not going to catch 45 to 60 balls.
Yeah, the last 3
To be
games,
up there.
188 yards, 159, 149. Those are big games running.
Yeah, that's 500 yards in 3 games. That'll help get you up there. But where's he at here? Derrick Henry, they have him in standard as the number 1 running back.
Mm-hmm.
Like think about that. That's the big difference, right? Christian McCaffrey does everything. He's a receiver and a running back in one. But he's ahead of him in standard because it's touchdowns and rushing yards. Christian McCaffrey and Ezekiel Elliott are ahead of him in PPR. I wouldn't have him at third, but I guess the matchup is pretty solid.
Yeah, a tough matchup against San Francisco, and he's not really. I mean, he's consistent, but he's only had like 2, 3 really good games this year, which
But see why I like these guys. Like when you look at Kamara, you look at McCaffrey. If they get stuffed running the ball, there's a backup plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes them almost that well that does make them uh, uh,
Relevant.
it makes them what's a matchup proof,
Mm.
because yeah, San Francisco might stuff you, but if he catches 9 balls, it doesn't matter. Tampa Bay might
Right.
stuff you, but if you catch 9 balls, it don't matter. If Derrick Henry gets stuffed for 45 yards, you're getting 4.5 points. Like, that's just the end of the story.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, and
I'm
most of the guys
sorry.
behind him.
You might get 1.25 from a reception.
Yeah, I mean, most of the guys behind Derrick Henry are pretty good. Pretty good in the passing game. Dalvin Cook, Saquon, Aaron
Fournette,
Jones. That'll get some love in the passing
Bell,
game. Uh,
Gordon,
yeah. So
Miles
you know,
Sanders. It's not going to work out this way next year. Derrick Henry's not going to be able
no.
to pull that off next year because you're going to see Miles Sanders get a lot more work, Devin Singletary get a lot more work. Um, Hopefully, since
All the rookie
oh,
backs that come in. I mean, there's a lot of
that
nice
was another
rookies
thing I
coming
was going
out.
to say. Don't sleep on Joe Mixon during the playoffs because he's starting to catch the ball a little bit more and he's starting to run the ball better. So
Hmm.
he's been putting up some points the last few weeks. I think he's been like 17 the last 3 weeks or something, right
Yeah.
around there.
Yeah.
So
17-8, 17, 18. So yeah, it's quite a bit.
yeah, so don't sleep on the Joe Mixon. All right, well I think we're gonna call that a night. We
I'm
didn't
good to
get any
me.
more questions.
Now we're good.
Like I said, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share, whatever button. And if you want to get in our Discord, make sure you go to rotoheat.com/discord. That'll get you right in there. I'm gonna check my email, see if Mr. UCLA shot me an email to come on the show sometime. That would be pretty cool.
I dig it. That'd be awesome.
Um, I am also going to be posting about some hats. So if you are interested in a Roto Heat hat, I'm going to be posting something in the next couple days in our group, and I'll also have Brad mention it on one of his videos on YouTube. So if you are interested in a Roto Heat hat, we will have those up, and I'm hoping in the next week or so to also have a new feature on the website.
Stick
Stick
around.
around, stay tuned. It'll be awesome. All right, that'll be it. We're out.